Hello everyone. Today in this video lecture class of genetics and biotechnology paper of the semester, we shall study regarding the topic Mendelian principles and law of segregation under the topic Introduction to Mendelian principles. Okay, so under Mendelian principle we shall be studying regarding the Mendelian principles, especially the law of segregation we shall be taking up in this video lecture. Let us move on. So these are the learning objectives and these are the session outcomes. Now, in order to start with this lecture, the student it is needed to have a brief knowledge of these terms. Gene, you all know, it is a segment of the DNA made up of the nucleotides coding for a specific protein or a trait. Now, what is DNA? We all know it is the genetic material of eukaryotes. And now, what are traits? A trait is a word used to mention the character in case of the genetics. Now, inheritance is transfer of characters from the previous generation to the present generation. Gametogenesis is formation of the gametes. Homozygous and heterozygous, we know well the trait has same type of alleles. For example, for tall character, if the capital T is mentioned, it is called homozygous, and if it is small t again, it is homozygous. And if the dominant and the recessive alleles, there is a capital T and small t present together, that is known as the heterozygous situation. Okay. Now, what are pure lines? That also you all know very well. In previous classes, you shall be studying regard them. The pure lines are the homozygous. The pure line character is having the homozygous alleles in it, and these pure lines can transfer the same kind of character for several generations. So, with these words, we shall start the Mendelian principles. Mendel had a great contribution to the genetics. Is the back to say is the father of the genetics. Several experiments were conducted even before the Gregor John Mendel regarding the inheritance patterns, but it was in the 19th century that the Gregor John Mendel conducted crossing experiments on garden pea, that is the Pisum sativum. So he had obtained all the successful results, and was based on the results that he has obtained, he was able to propose laws of inheritance. And in fact, they are termed as the Mendelian principles. Okay. Now, uh, once the Gregor John Mendel proposed these things during the 19th century, they did not find that much of the exposure that the Gregor John Mendel is expecting. Now, the work was put into the dark. Now, later on, it was by Hugo de Vries, Karl Correns, and Eric von Chernoff that they have rediscovered the Mendelian work and has explained the importance of the Mendelian features, um, importance of the Mendelian principles are the laws of inheritance that are proposed by the Mendel based on the new knowledge that was present during the Correns, Debris, and Sherman. Okay. Now, so Mendel had selected the pea plant Pisum sativum for his hybridization experiments. Mendel was lucky in selecting this plant. What are the features that were luckily present in the pea plant which made Mendel lucky to propose the laws of genetics? First of all, the pea plants are very easy to cultivate and grow. The second thing is they used to grow very fast and their lifespan was very, very short. So, because of this, Mendel was able to study the variation in characters in several generations, right? Now, so not only that, naturally the pea plants were having a self pollination in them, and through controlled experiments, controlled pollination, Mendel was also able to do the cross pollination experiments, both self and cross pollinations were possible in pea plants. Mendel used to emasculate, and after emasculation, cross pollination used to be done in order to conduct the hybridization experiments. Right. Now, apart from that, another advantage of having a pea plant in hybridization experiment is the number of offsprings that it used to produce. The enormous number of offsprings used to be produced. So it was easy for Mendel to study the variations in the character. Now, apart from that, the pea plants, each trait, almost all important characters of the pea plant, they had variations. They had contrasting features. For example, height of the plant, tall and dwarf, shape of the seed, round wrinkle, color of the seed, green, yellow. Like this, many factors or characters, they were able to show contrasting nature. Okay, so using these advantages character, Mendel, through his observation capacity, started conducting hybridization experiments. Now, um, initially, Mendel started conducting hybridization experiments on a single character. So it used to be height of the plant, it used to be raw shape of the seed, or it used to be the position of the flower. Like this single character he has considered. Later on, he started considering pairs of characters. Okay, so based on that, we segregate, we classify the Mendelian experiments into monohybrid cross and the dihybrid cross. Fine. Now, based on the results of these hybridization experiments, monohybrid and dihybrid cross, Mendel proposed few generalizations regarding the inheritance patterns, and these generalizations that are proposed by Mendel were called as laws of inheritance, or they are also called Mendelian principles. Now, let us see what are these Mendelian laws. So initially, as I told you, the Mendel conducted his crossing experiment on a single character, single trait of the pea plant that was considered as a monohybrid cross. And this trait has contrasting features. For example, if you consider the height of the plant, tall and dwarf are the contrasting features. So he crossed the tall plant with the dwarf plant. If in the F1 generation, he observed that all the plants were tall plants. Now, character that has appeared in F1 generation, that was considered as a dominant character. Okay, so which did not appear in the F1 generation, that was considered as a recessive character. So, based on the results of this monohybrid cross, Mendel has proposed a law known as law of dominance. Now, what is this law of dominance? The law of dominance states that in a monohybrid cross where parents differ in one pair of contrasting character. So here Mendel is considering only one pair of contrasting characters for a specific trait. Now the F1 generation, only one trait appears. The trait that has appeared in the F1 generation, that is called as the dominant trait. The trait that did not appear in the F1 generation, that is called as a recessive trait. So this is what is known as law of dominance. Now let us take an example for that. So here we are considering the height of the plant as the uh, character. Now, so let us take two contrasting characters of height of the plant. One is a tall plant and the one is a dwarf plant. So for tall plant, you can see here capital T, capital T. So they are, both of them are pure lines having homozygous nature. So, that is why we are taking the uh, genotype as capital T, and for dwarf plant it is small t, small t. So now, what are the gametes obtained from that? So since it is homozygous, only one type of gametes are formed, that is capital T, and so dwarf plant also homozygous pure line, it also forms small t. Now, in the F1 generation after crossing, we see capital T and small t coming together, since there is presence of a dominant character that is capital T, now all the plants of F1 generation are the tall plants. Okay. So you can just see that if tall plants were allowed to self-pollinate, these tall plants that were obtained in the F1 generation, when they were allowed to self-pollinate, when the self-pollination is done between these uh, F1 generation, then in the F2 generation, they made sure Mendel observed that 75% of the plants were tall plants, but surprisingly, 25% of plants were dwarf plants. So, tall and dwarf plants were present in the ratio of 3 is to 1. Now, so we can see here um, the, during gametogenesis, one point you may observe each gamete contained either capital T or small t. Even though they were present together during formation of the gamete, they got separated. So some of the gametes started having capital T, some of them had small t. When the gamete with capital T fused, so that gave rise to tall plant. When the gamete with small t fused, that gave rise to dwarf plant. So overall, the gametes remain pure. So there is no mixing up of the alleles. Now, based on this, Mendel proposed another law that is known as law of purity of gametes, or law of segregation. What is that? Just now I told you, it states that in a monohybrid cross, both dominant and recessive factors which remain pure are uncontaminated and they segregate only during the gametogenesis. During gamete formation, the capital T and small t that were present, they move to different gamete. So the gamete either has capital T or small t, never both. So they remain segregated and they remain pure. So that is the law of segregation or purity of gametes. So to just explain law of purity of gametes, we can just go through this hybridization experiment. So till here we have seen previously law of dominance. Now on self-crossing F1, that is capital T cap small t and capital T small t, we obtain two different types of gametes here because it is a heterozygote. The F1 generation is a heterozygous tall plant. So because of that, it has two different alleles. One is a dominant allele, capital T. Another one is a small allele. So there are two different type of gametes formed. On self-crossing the F1 generation, we obtain this result. This is the F2 generation. You can see here 25% of the plants were homozygous tall plants, 50% of the plants were heterozygous tall plants, and 25% of the plants were heterozygous. Sorry, there's a small correction here. So they are having small t, that is the homozygous dwarf. So this is not capital T, just small t and small t. Now, so because of this, because these factors stayed together during the gametogenesis, they started getting separated. So this is what is known as law of segregation. Now, overall, in the Mendelian principles, under this video lecture, we have studied the contribution of the Mendel, advantages of selecting pea plant for the hybridization experiment, and we have gone through the law of dominance and law of segregation. Okay, so this is the overall summary. Now, so try to answer these questions. Who among them rediscovered? So it is all of them. Try to answer these questions. And so select law of segregation of Mendel states that. Okay, so that's the right answer. I have already given there. So try to answer this. These are the references. Thank you all for watching. Let us meet in the next session.